Okay. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all the attendees present here. And as we are here together with IIU, definitely, and it's a privilege for me to be here as a part of a resource person for the IIU. So let me start with the introduction for myself, Ms. Chandani Kingar. I'm a global speaker, SDT ambassador, currently working in UAE with the international school for the secondary section. Talking about the IIU, if I say IIU is an international internship university, which is a leading virtual education system and the global brand confederation, which is the most valuable and trusted worldwide and well reputed in delivering the innovative programs. Globally, it is a trusted name for the quality and training of the programs and is committed to provide a better and the virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. In the short span of time, IIU has spread its wings in 195 countries and 6 continents. Under the strong leadership of its visionary founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit Sir, a committed and inspiring social activist, a passionate educationist from last 2 decades, providing education to the students from various social and cultural background. So that's what the IIU is about, and we all are here to take a part and be a part of IIU, maybe by any of the ways that we can be. Uh, I'll just share my screen so we can start with the session. And as you all might be aware that we are here for an important topic which talks about or which is relevant to us for the educators, especially I can say, which are really important for us. And educators in the current scenario are developing themselves. They are just trying to encourage themselves within the groups, within the team, that how we can implement the various strategies. It may be instructional strategies, it may be the interventional strategies, it may be the metacognitive strategies. So all these strategies, when they come into the classrooms together, the full-fledged, the trained teacher, I can say, who will have the control over the classroom, and this will bring some learning happening in the classroom. This will show that some initiatives are being taken by the students by reducing the teacher's talk time, by reducing the teacher, I mean, by increasing the students' talk time. So all of this, when we join together, when we connect all these dots, helps us to understand that why the metacognition is important and why we have to think about what our learners or what our kids are thinking. And that's the major topic that I'm going to focus on today, thinking about the thinking, what our learners are thinking. So that's somewhere where we are going to talk about the learning strategies, about the metacognitive strategies, and about certain instructional and interventional strategies altogether. So let's begin with, and let me start with the first part of today's session, which says, or which I want you to take it forward, or we will be going it forward, that how the things are going to take place. So first thing that I want we to understand over here, that what do we mean by metacognition? Now here, when we say a metacognition, it's not just only for the teaching and learning purpose. Metacognition takes us to this place of the students, forces us or reinforces us that how our students are thinking. We have to understand their mindset, and we all educators, we all are working with the students of the age. Maybe they are adolescents, maybe they are the young adults, or young learners who are from year 7 to year 9, or maybe they are the junior kids who are just growing up themselves, who are just grooming up themselves after entering the schools. But the metacognition is not limited to any of the section or any of the uh, uh, scenario of the school. And that's the reason we say that from the very beginning we have to start understanding that what the students are thinking, what our learners are thinking, we have to think about that, right? So all of this brings us to the point to understand the thinking, about the thinking, and the knowledge and understanding which we need as an educator. I believe that if the educator is fulfilled of knowledge and understanding of what the others are thinking, then definitely that will be helping out. Let's take a simple example. If we know that one of the student from my class who is very stubborn, he will not do his work, or he will not complete his work, he will be he will become very aggressive, he will become very argumentative when it comes to the taking part in the class activities or doing the work and all. So we have to think that why, as an educator, this becomes a role, that why the child is behaving that way, what are the logic or what are the reasons behind which the child is working, I mean thinking that way. And that will actually help us to understand the thinking of the child, and based on the thinking, we will know that what is to be included as an ability of the child to overcome, or to overcome the situations of the aggressiveness that the child has. So this things has to be definitely considered, that how the knowledge and the understanding of the educators supports the child in the classroom environment, and many of the time outside of the classroom environment, so that it enables the child to understand their own work, their own thinking, and get them on the task, get them on the work that we are expecting from them. Now, a, an ordinary, or we can say the traditional metacognition, was not much different than the modern metacognition that is taking place. But in today's scenario, that in the modern practices, we can say the two bifurcations has been done under the metacognition. One is metacognitive knowledge, and the second is based on the regulation, that is metacognitive regulation. So this is where the knowledge and self-regulations, that is a behavior, or the concerns from the child's psychology, when they all combine together, what we want them to do and what they want to do, when we just mix up both of this and try to find out some better solutions, then that, I think, helps us to understand and bring a good instructional or the interventional metacognitive strategies. So moving forward with this, let us understand that how the metacognition takes place. As I said, it has been bifurcated in two parts: the metacognitive knowledge and metacognitive regulation. Now, again, under that, if we think about, there are three pillars which helps or which supports in the metacognitive knowledge, in the metacognitive regulations. So first is about the declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, and conditional knowledge. Now, as of now, for today, I'm going to focus on mainly the second part, that is talking about the planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Now, when I say I'm going to talk about the second part, it's because we want these students to get to be an active learner and take the responsibility of their own learning. And that's why I say in my classrooms also that you are responsible for what you do, and you are responsible for your own learning. So you have to take a charge of your own learning. And that's where I try to implement or inculcate the metacognitive skills or metacognitive practices into the classroom, to ensure that each child is contributing and each child is taking something at the end of the lesson, or the learning is taking place at the end of the lesson. Yes, thinking about or the talking about that, how uh, or what is the role of, if we are a school leaders, if we are a subject leaders, if you are career counselors, if you are SLT teams or MLT teams, if you are school principal, at different levels, we need to understand that there are learning that is taking place, but how these roles can support the child or the teachers in having their basic understanding, or in getting their learning done. And as I said, that when we are going to talk about the second part of the metacognition, where we talk about the self-regulation. Now, I want to focus on self-regulation in today's session. The reason is that the self-regulation is not only for the child, it is for the teacher as well, because it's joining hands together and bringing the child on board to make sure that the learning is taking place. So if we are school leaders, it may be at any position. If you are subject teachers, how the things are happening. And I would request the subject teachers also to ensure that the subject specific talks should be able to provide the child to understand that subject is not a burden for them. Because I think we all know that many of the time it happens that kids will say that I don't love this subject or I don't like this subject. Maybe it's because of the teacher, maybe sometimes it's because of they don't have that interest in the subject. Maybe the subject was opted, especially for the higher grades, as I teach the higher grades, the subject was opted as it was forced by the parents to opt for this for the same. And that's the reason the child loses that interest and does not want to be in the classes, and they comment at the end of the day that I don't like that subject. If you see the reactions before and after the lessons, you will come to know that how the child's psychology is functioning. And at that time we have to take a metacognition into practice, because that will help us to know that how the child is thinking and how we can change their thinking, or we can change their opinion about the subject. So that's somewhere the subject teachers have to take a charge of their own subject, along with the responsibility to ensure that the student or the child takes the charge of his own learning that is taking place within the classroom environment, right? And school leaders, definitely, I'm going the step by step in the hierarchy, because it's the teachers who are direct contact with with the students. It's the teachers who are the direct in charge of what the child is doing and what the child can do better in the classroom or maybe outside the classroom. But the school leaders definitely can take a time to find it out, that what are the metacognition strategies are being implemented. And if there is a loophole, don't just be a we can say that put it on the subject teachers that you don't know or you don't have the skills. Instead, just take out a time to talk to the teachers to find out where they can be supported, because we have seen some of the teachers that they feel very underconfident even though they are expert in their subjects. But many of the time it happens that due to one or the other reasons, they might sometimes uncomfortable, especially when it comes to the observations, or when it comes to a learning work. Many of the teachers get nervous also. So the rest of the classes and the rest of the scenarios are going very well. They're bookmarking, they're providing of the resources, their availability, their support to the students, their that empathy that we can say is clearly visible. But many of the time it creates, or it creates that scenario where the teachers may not be able to give their best. But on the other end, the school leaders can show that empathy and the path to ensure that during the learning work, if they are making some observations, it has to be reflected positively, without affecting that teacher's repo, or without affecting the teacher's image or somewhere. And definitely that will help the achievement of the outcomes or achievement of the results among the students. And as you can see, there's a question, or there is a task that has been given to you, that you need to write some metacognitive talks on post-its. So instead, I would prefer that the lovely audience can add their points at how they're using the metacognitive strategies, or what metacognitive strategies are you using. And in this scenario, you have to consider both the students and the teachers talk, right? So that's something you can mention it in the comments, so we can have a look at that as well. And meanwhile, I'll just take a look at that as well, so we can have a good comments from the audience. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Now talking about now talking about the metacognition phases. So that's what we have seen in the previous slide, that metacognition phases are being mainly divided into three parts or three pillars, I can say. One is for the planning, second is for the monitoring, and third is for evaluation. Now, planning and monitoring, this all will go along with all the reflections that are being gathered by the teachers or by the students. Now, if this has to be, the self-regulation has to be done starting from the teacher's point of view, and then moving it to the student's point of view, that where the teacher can help the students in the classrooms. So let's understand one after the other that why the metacognition is important. Then there are few factors that has been mentioned which talks about that why the metacognition plays an important role. If it depends on the own accord anyways, it helps the teachers to understand first that is it somewhere that she or he needs to work on, and if so, that how that can be rectified or checked out. The second advantage or the importance, we can see that it shapes the active rather than the passive learners. Now, when we are in the classrooms, we have seen that most of the students in the classroom are very active, especially if they like the subject or if they like the teacher. But many of the time, some of the students are not that really active and that able to ensure that they are showing that interest in the subject. So we have to ensure that there we can reduce the numbers of the passive learners, or we can put down the numbers of the passive learners to zero. So many of the time, what I do is, if I suggest or if I talk about to ensure that there is an active participation taking place, I give them the group tasks, or I ensure that I have to make it as an formative assessments, where the students definitely have to participate and show that how they can contribute and what they can contribute. And many of the time we give them some other activities which keeps an involvement or the movement in the classroom itself. One of the best example that recently I did with my classes was a gallery walk, so where each student will be contributing, each student will be participating in their groups, so that somewhere the active participation can also be inculcated. The third benefit that we get by using the metacognition strategies is giving the people or giving our students the sense of control over the learning. I don't want to force my students to learn something, but I want them to take a charge, as I said a few minutes back, and I want them to understand that how they can control their own learning. Because many of the time we see that once the students are there in the class, they are going deeper and deeper into the questioning, and somewhere or the other they even many of the time loses that what exactly their purpose was for asking those questions. So they have to take a charge, or to understand that where they have to raise the questions and where those questions can be avoided, to ensure that the exit outcome or the reflection, I mean exit evaluation can also be done with what the learners outcomes are expected by the teachers. The next benefit that we get here is learning how to learn. Now, that's the first thing. See, I'll just share one of the incident. I mean, not incident, but one of the video that I was watching last week, that says that if we keep on just learning, and if there is no application of that learning, then there is no use for that. Right. So that it has been divided into three stages, the process of learning again. First stage is to learn something. Second is to keep it alive in the sense you keep on revising or recalling it. And the third is most important, that is the application. So when all the three things are taking place, that whatever you have learned, if you are actually applying it in your practices, in your day-to-day activities in the classrooms, or during the school timings, so that actually keeps the teachers on track and helps to understand that what are the needs of the learners and where they have to support them. It may be in terms of empathy, it may be in terms of academics, it may be in terms of any other aspects where the teachers can be helpful. So this is really important, that through metacognition we can make it out that how the learning should take place. And the next point, it helps to promote the deep learning. Now, the major crux of the metacognition is to ensure that there is a deep learning taking place, right? Is to ensure that it's not that, okay, we are making them we can say a bookworms who just read the concepts, understand the concepts, and they proceed further. I always encourage that there has to be some activities planned by the teachers, using the metacognition, using the differentiation, using the inclusion provisions that they have in their schools, especially for the SOFT students or SEN students. And based on that, based on even the capabilities of the students, or abilities of the students, again, the differentiation should be visible. It helps them to have the deeper learning, and it ensures that they are working on track. And those students who are not high graders, definitely we can pull them up and we can support them in the possible ways, if we know where the differentiation has created that distinction between the students. So this is really important for us to understand the metacognition and why it is useful. Because if we learn something, if we know something, but why it is needed, that's really important. And that's what actually asking question as why, what, when helps the students also many of the times to ensure that what are they looking for or what should be their answer. Yes. So moving to the next part. Yes, moving to the next part, as I say, the deeper helping in the deeper learning. Now, if there is a key component of the assessment for learning. Now, when we talk about the metacognition, that's really important for us to understand that we have lots of assessment taking place. It may be formatives, it may be the unit test, it may be the summatives, it may be the midterm exams, everything. So why, as a part of the assessment, also the metacognition should take place. Just copying down the questions, or just bringing down the questions which has been asked in the past and is giving the same to the students, but are we actually balancing those papers using the metacognition strategies or not? That also again is really important for us to understand. Yes. Now, how we can ensure that metacognition is taking place in the classroom or not? For that, we have a very good learning cycle that has been provided from one of the resources. Actually, the article that was being published by a well-known author, and this actually helped me to understand that how the learning cycle for the students, and along with that, the how the teachers can also have those contributions taking place. So first step is to deciding how to incorporate the improvements into the experiments. So we need to ensure that what are the things that we are already doing, and based on those activities, what are the next steps that we have to follow. And that's the reason, as you can see here it says about the next experiences. So if I'm doing something today, and what is the reflection based on my activity, and taking that reflection forward, how should I prepare for the next experience or next time when I enter the classroom? So again, in this learning cycle, it has to be ensured that this is to be considered by the teachers when they are preparing themselves. It may be for the lessons, it may be when they are preparing the activities, when they are preparing the lesson plans. All of these things matters at that point of time. Now, based on our past experiences, if or based on our experiments that takes place in the school or in the classroom or outside the classroom, that also helps us. Many of the teachers I've seen practically who are working with me, that they take the examples of their own kids, that okay, my child was facing so and so problem, so definitely there are chances that other students might also be facing. I'm not saying it will be 100% that other students definitely will face the same problem, but yes, based on the experience, that okay, if this is happening with one or two kids, it is possible that in the class of 25 or 30 students, this can be the problem for the others also. So based on this experiences and the experiments that we do in the classrooms, we can again reflect back and look into that where the adjustments are to be needed, and where the lesson plan or the objectives or the activities are to be improvised. Moving to the next part, which talks about having time to think about the experiences. Now, many of the teachers, we have seen that okay, incident has happened or something has happened in the classroom, you take a note of that, you forward it to the school leaders, and then everything is over, right? But this cannot be done when it comes to the metacognition, or it cannot be done especially when it comes to the day-to-day activities of the learners, or yeah, the actual classroom environments, where we have to ensure that the time taken uh, by the teachers to reflect on what the experience was. So if I'm in the classroom, and many of the time we feel today's my class was not that really good, so I have to ensure that I reflect back on that, and I find it out that what were the things that went positive, and what were the things because of which the class didn't went well. So again, based on the strategy of applying the experiences into the reflections, and based on those reflections coming back, that what was being learned in that, and formalizing what can be improved next, what can be the results once it is improved. So overall, the learning cycle keeps on taking place, and overall learning cycle actually makes us and the students understand where they have to work on. So if my experiences are good, definitely I don't have to think about that what can be rectified, but instead I can think about what can be improvised to ensure the further good experiences in the classrooms. So that was about the learning cycle. Now i I always say that if we are in the situation, especially the teachers, we have seen many of the time, the session is going to start within 5 minutes and we are not planned, or maybe sometimes we are not ready with our required resources. So it's always necessary for us to have a plan B for entering into the plan A. So it's not that either plan A or plan B, but when we talk about the metacognition, it is preparing plan B for entering into the plan A. So definitely either of the plan will be supporting one another and give the maximum output that we are looking for. Right. So that's something we have to consider when we are talking about the metacognition. Now, I was working with a few teachers a few months back, and we had that again the training on the metacognition, and we were looking into the various research papers. We were looking into the books which talks about the metacognition, and there were few things that came us as our point or as our observation, that there are certain misunderstanding also regarding the metacognition. It may be from the school leaders point of view, it may be from the teachers point of view, it may be from the students point of view, it may be from many of the time the directors or the CEOs or the trustees of the school, who because of which the metacognition has not that really been accepted to some by some students or by some teachers. So if you see over here, it has been clearly mentioned that what the people think or what the students think, that it is like breathing, it is like heartbeat, which is going upside down, and what is just happens, we don't know, and many of the time it is out of the control. This all are myths, this all are the misunderstanding that we all have when it comes to the metacognition. But metacognition is a more beautiful thing if we think of that it is a way of thinking that will help us to make sure that we are learned, we are practiced, developed, and we are improved also. So if we go back to this learning cycle, it helps us in understanding all of this. We will be learning, we will be experimenting, we will be experiencing, we will be developing, and furthermore we'll be improving. So that's where we have to understand, and especially to take it out from the students mind, that when we talk about the metacognition strategies, it should not have the adverse effect on their mind. But if but we cannot say that thinking skills is not the same as intelligence, because when we say a thinking is a different thing and intelligence is at its own place, right? So many of them will be very good thinkers, but it is possible that they might not be that really intelligent people. And it is absolutely the other way also, that being brilliant at the school, or maybe gathering lots of information, or being good at the speaking out in the classroom, this has to some extent no direct relation with the metacognition, because metacognition brings all of them together to ensure that not only one aspect's EQ or IQ is going to impact, but all the aspects that the child holds, all the capabilities and abilities the child holds, that is going to matter in the metacognitional strategies. So these are the misunderstanding that we all have observed at that point of time, and we are still working on this. So definitely we'll be posting about the same, that how we can overcome this misunderstandings also. Yes.
For whatever reason, we are more likely to spend time planning for a road trip, a big party, or a date than we are for learning. Many students don't approach learning the same way they do other important aspects of their lives. One of the biggest differentiators between successful learners, experts, and students who struggle is something called metacognition. Metacognition is the process of thinking about thinking, one that is used to make decisions that maximize learning outcomes and help students meet their goals. Metacognition is thinking not just about the what of learning, but the how. Ultimately, metacognition is all about creating the best possible opportunity to learn what you're trying to learn. So, when you're learning something, you stop to consider what you're trying to learn, what you know, how you're trying to learn it, how effective your strategies are, and what you can do differently to improve your understanding. Most people don't move beyond cognitive strategies when learning. Cognitive strategies are things tests ask you to do: recall, analyze, interpret, and apply information. Metacognition helps us see which cognitive strategies need to occur so we're best prepared for a test while also showing us what we need to do differently in order to be successful. When we start looking at what we need to do, our learning goal, and how we're going to do it, our plan for learning, we are distinguishing between metacognitive knowledge and metacognitive regulation. There are three basic stages of the metacognition process: plan, monitor, and evaluate. First, plan your approach to learning a topic, specifically how you will digest the information. Then, monitor your comprehension of the topic as you study with actions such as practice tests. Finally, evaluate the results of your learning when you're finished and modify your approach as needed. These may sound like extra steps, but they are actually essential parts of the learning process. These steps help learners see that they've used their time to recall, analyze, interpret, and apply information. In other words, metacognition helps students know that they really learned something. So, what does it look like in action? As a learner, you have to contend with your personal strengths and weaknesses, the nature of the task, and the strategies you have available to you to accomplish the task and overcome any challenges. The process will look different for every student. Let's have a look at Marcus and his ACT study plan. There are two ways he can approach his preparation process. Marcus feels confident with most of the material, although he's a bit iffy on the math and science sections. His plan could involve reviewing an ACT study guide and a few practice tests leading up to test date. The day will come, he'll live with the grade, and repeat the same process again the next time he takes the exam, perhaps faring better or worse. On the other hand, Marcus could take time to consider which ACT sections he already feels confident about, which sections he needs more time to prepare for, as well as exactly how he will monitor his progress during preparation. He could regularly pause to ask, is what I'm doing working? If so, how do I know? After the test, he can evaluate his overall process, if there was anything he could have done differently, and how he will prepare differently next time. It's not hard to see which preparation method best sets Marcus up for success. Let's step back and consider the basic questions you can ask yourself before, during, and after studying to attend to the decisions that can make the difference in your performance. Before learning, take time to plan. What am I supposed to learn? What strategies should I use? How much time do I have? While learning, pause to monitor. How am I doing? Am I on track with my plan? Do I understand what I'm learning? Should I adjust my pace? After learning, reflect and evaluate your process. What did I learn? Did I achieve my goals? What could I have done differently? Is there anything I still don't understand? The answers to these questions may not come quickly, but they create an opportunity for you to change how you approach your goals when things just aren't working out the way you want them to. Learning and practicing metacognition means that you'll be your own best indicator for whether you are prepared for a test or not. At the same time, you're helping prepare yourself for more effective learning in the future because you will be able to make the best choices for yourself when your materials and teachers don't deliver what you need.
Okay, so that was a quick revision, I can say, as a part of the metacognition that we are talking about, that how and why the metacognition is important. As we have seen that again under this process of planning, learning, and evaluating, and based on which based on which the reflections are going to take place, right? And when we see about reflections, again we have to think about that where we need to reflect. That is also really important for the educators and for the students. I say that, okay, I have reflected on my previous session, but did I do something out of that? Did I learn something out of that? And if I have reflected, if I have done something, what are the best strategies that I could implement it, right? So I can enrich my learners outcome, I can enrich my knowledge, and I can enrich my classroom's outcome. So that's somewhere we have to, as an educator, it makes really important for us to analyze what we are looking for, and based on that, when are we reflecting and what are we reflecting. So under as we are seeing in the video as well, that we are looking into the reflections based all at each stages. It may be during planning, it may be during monitoring, it may be during the evaluations. That is, the reflection has to take before, after, during, and after. So if I'm planning something and I have to reflect back, so I have to plan, I have to think about before planning something, during the planning, and after the planning processes. So this is applicable to all of the scenarios. Now, looking at what we have seen now, we'll be moving towards certain strategies where we say that it's a compass advantage of using the metacognition in our classrooms. So this was really a nice picture that I could get it from the internet actually, and it gave me the overall idea what we are looking for. And when we say about a compass advantage of using the metacognition, as you can see over there, we talk not only about the empathy, we don't talk about the curiosity, but we are talking about the social ability, we are talking about resilience, the self-awareness, as I was talking about, that we are here focusing on self-regulation by the educators and by the students. Along with that, the integrity, the resourcefulness, and the creativity. So when we talk about an educator, when they are planning, when they are reflecting on their own strategies, how they should be looking into which of the components are missed out, or which of the components are already well planned, and all this will help us as a checklist for the educators to understand their proper planning, and after that looking into their own reflections. So as you can see, there are eight strategies that has been given over here, that how the students can be based on the comprehension strategies, or they can work on their comprehension strategies, because we have seen many of the students, they will read everything, they will understand everything, but they will not analyze anything, they will not comprehend anything. And here where the role of the educator comes to apply their metacognition strategies or metacognitive self-regulations, that the students should be able to make connections. And that's why I'm teaching the higher grades, so we know that we have to ensure that we are creating a real life connections with the students, and especially with the real life businesses, or maybe real life uh, uh, the activities that is taking place. So making the connections with the real world actually helps us to ensure that the child understands everything, and based on that we support the child to comprehend or analyze the content. Referring to the next point, that is to interfere, we need to use our own clues, or we need to use our own scheme, because many of the time, we have seen the educators just copy paste something from here and there, and then they go to the classroom and everything is upside down. So don't get into those, because when we are talking about metacognition, you should be able to put your own work. And I have learned in my past experiences that when we prepare our own work, no, we are more confident rather than using someone else's work. So that's something that has to be applied over here. And even if you're using someone else's work, you should be able to ensure that you are making it, or you are preparing it for yourself, and you are adjusting or modifying it as per your requirements or your students requirement. So again, that will help us to interfere between the resources that we have and that we want to provide to the students. Again, some of the learners are very pictorial, who wants to learn more from the pictures or from the videos and all. So we have to ensure that we are creating, or we are providing, and that's a importance here, where we talk about the strategies of using the mind maps, or maybe the concept maps. And even sometimes we say, then we show them the pictures on the slides, and also where we have to ensure that even this also supports the learners, and especially when we have the students coming from the background of an SOFD or maybe SEN students, there also we have to ensure the strategies are applied. Asking questions, again, one of the most important part. Asking questions will actually help. And one thing that I have observed, that uh, asking question, did you understand? I hope you are clear with this. Do you have any doubts here? These are not the questions where the students are actually looking or are interested to answer them. So when we are talking about the metacognition, again, we have to say that the questions should be a comprehensive, so that the students can analyze what they are expected to answer, right? So instead of giving them, and I have learned from my previous teaching learning coach, that she used to always say, don't ask, are you clear with this, or don't ask those basic questions, right? Instead you ask them a quantifiable questions. You will ask them, either, for example, you can say, list down these three things, or give me the names of these two things, or define this one thing. So this 3 to 1 and will actually give the clear idea to the educators and to the learners, that what they are looking for, what exactly has to be answered. And based on that, at the end of the lesson, you can also know, before you start reflecting on your session, that what was missed out and what was the thing that went well in the classroom, right? So some question, asking question, again, there is a huge conversation that can be done on this. Next point is about determining the importance. Now think about something that is really an important, because see, we are living in the world of information, we are living in the world of knowledge. And I say that students are more faster in getting the knowledge or information from anywhere. They know that there is a limited time where the teacher can spend with us, so they can use the expertise of the teachers to that particular time. But moreover, they know from where to get the information or how to get the information. So we have to ensure that we are determining what is important information and how they can use it for their learning purpose. Furthermore, have to synthesize this. Synthesizing will help them to bring all the ideas together, bring their own points or the opinions together, and that will actually help them to bring the good results, or we can say they will actually produce the real outcomes. Monitoring their understanding, we are taking the formatives, we are taking the summatives, we are taking lots of other assessments, and based on that we keep on even track. Many of the teachers have a habit of having the plenary activities, and in plenary they always ensure that they monitor the understanding of the students. So that's really something we can say a good metacognitive strategies apply. Use fix up strategies. Now many of the time students get stuck, and teachers just pass on the question to the other child. No, that's not the way where say the metacognition has been followed, right? So there's something where the teachers need to fix up themselves, or maybe teachers need to fix up the problems that the students are facing, right? So these are the few strategies that can be applied for the metacognition, or when applying the metacognitive regulations in the classrooms. Moving further, again, I just have bifurcated this into the scenarios, or we can say different criterias, that how this can be done or how the metacognition can be take place. So as you can see over here, there are surveys that can be done. There can be a slow down process. Many of the time, don't be in a hurry to complete the syllabus. Slow down yourself, make it sure that you stop, read, and think about the information. You try to help your kids to understand what they need to, and based on that, it will improve the focus for you and for your learners also. Activate the prior knowledge also. Many of the time what happens is the teacher enters the class, start doing what they have to do as of now, and they directly proceed further to the next topics. Teachers, please stop there, because that will not help your child or your the students in the classroom to connect with what they have studied and now what they have to study. So it is really really important, and for that purpose I think we all are using the starter activities to ensure that the activation of the previous learning is taking place, and then we are connecting it with the current topics that we want to teach them. Fit ideas together, drawing or draw diagrams. These are lots of strategies that can be applied into the classroom, and it will actually help overall functioning or overall learning of the students, and it will give excellent results from those classes, right? So it is really important for us to find out which strategy applies to respective classes, and based on that how we have to ensure the students learning taking place. Moving further, if I say again, few strategies are being given here, and as you can see, it has been really, really talking about the organic learning that is taking place. That's something really an interesting word that has came up with, that organic learning should be taking place, and it includes the knowledge, the tool set, skill set, and mindset. Now, for everything, if you think over here, given here, has its own importance. If we talk about the knowledge, definitely the subject knowledge or the expertise is required in that particular knowledge, and this has to be analyzed by the teacher, right? So as I can teach others, I am so good at this now, this can be analyzed by the teachers. This can be the rubric actually for the teachers to provide it to the students also, so that we can know what exactly the students think about, and how the students are learning. So you can just take a print of this colorful organic learning rubric, and you can ask your students also many of the time to stick it in the notebook. And based on that, the tool set, skill set, and mindset of the students can also be known. So when you are talking to the learners next time, or when you are taking some sessions with those classes, you can ensure that these strategies are taking place appropriately, right? And as we can see over here, it's a time to take action when we have to uh, reflect on our learning, on our teaching, and this will help us to ensure that our metacognition strategies are applied well. Yes, there are 4 ways to promote metacognition awareness. Now, as we have seen the previous rubric, as we have seen the previous learning, this is just a reflection again on the same, that how the metacognition is going to take place, and we have to ensure that the metacognition strategies are discussed with them. I'm not saying we are going to discuss that, okay, this is the strategy, this is known as metacognition. We are not going to discuss that, but we are going to ensure that by discussing what strategy are we going to apply into the classroom, what are the learning objectives or the success criteria that we are looking at the end of the session. So that's something you can discuss with the learners and bring them on the board to ensure the appropriate or the excellent output that you're looking for, right? And even it will help them to regulate their own thinking. If I say in my classroom that, okay, today we are going to have a gallery walk activity, and this is our topic, and this is what we are going to do. Now, this helps our learners to think about that, what exactly they have to think. And there comes a metacognition again, right? That they starts to think about thinking what has to be done for that particular topic, right? And this shows a good value when it comes to the metacognition in your classrooms, especially when it comes to the learning walks, or maybe the observations by our school heads. So these are the 4 things that can be made into consideration. 3 to 1 summary and minute paper is again some of the strategies that can be applied. As I said a few minutes back, give the names of 3, or provide or list 2, or define 1. So this can be done. Now again, this strategies can be implemented in a way which will help you to quantify, rather than uh, just giving a vague conclusion. Okay, how many of you understood? Just raise your hand. No, we are not looking for those metacognition. I mean, we are not looking for those basic questions which do not give the observer in the class or the learning work person in the class that what exactly our students have understood. Right, so this is something again, a minute paper that can be given, the exit slip that can be given to the students to ensure that the learning has taken place and what they have learned out of it. This is something talking about deep learning, a high order thinking, and I just really like this, and that's the reason I have added it here. That the need for the learners to go beyond the mere recall of the factual information to develop a deeper understanding of the topics. And as we said that few minutes back, that we are talking about deeper understanding over here, right? To be more critical, and we can say that it is to make a reasoned judgments and decision rather than just then jumping to the immediate conclusions. Now, if many of you will be teaching the higher grades like me, so there we see that directly when the students read the questions, immediately they reach to the conclusion. For example, if the question is asking about whether the person should opt for option A or option B, they directly jump into a conclusion they should go with option B or option A particularly. But they do not think about that what will be the reason judgments, what can be the reasoned analysis, or the decisions evaluation points can be included. But metacognitions will help them to move step by step, and that's the reason we have the policies that we prepare the uh, a higher order thinking questions and the basic lower order thinking questions, so it will accommodate all our learners at the same time, right? So all the learners will be challenged, and all the, especially the GNT students, will be challenged, and the SOFT or SN students will be supported by the lower order thinking and taking the step forward towards the higher order thinking questions. And there we say that we are converting the learners, or we are converting the traditional learning into the expert learners. So that's a reason we need to ensure the metacognition taking place in our classrooms. Bloom's taxonomy, again, the most important element when we are planning, and this is really important for the teachers when it comes to preparing the lesson plans, or preparing for the learning walks or the observations. Please ensure to use the Bloom's, and it will actually justify your lesson plan step by step, rather than just jumping here and there and getting to no conclusion at the end, right? Yes, Bloom's taxonomy, again, it's the same thing, that higher order thinking has been provided, and I think we all are using the Bloom's taxonomy, so we all know that which step in the Bloom's taxonomy or in the pyramid has what importance, and based on that, how we can move towards the higher order thinking level, right? Suggestions, there are few for using the Bloom's taxonomy, but as we all will be using it, I just give the synopsis over here, that if you want to simplify it, simplify your tasks or your lesson plan using the Blooms. If you want them to give the research work, if you want to give them the group work, everything can be accommodated using the Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, this is what I was talking about, that if we are just learning in the same way, it happens to the students also. If they keep on learning, but at the end, there is no conclusion to this. At the end, when there is no application of this in their work, then it is not going to help. And that's why the most important part at the pyramid is to create, evaluate, or maybe to apply their learning into the actual answer, I mean actual questions, or maybe actual situations or scenarios. Asking questions, as I was talking about, few people, there will be only few teachers who are asking this vague questions, because when we are talking about the metacognition, it's a high chances that the teachers have already started implementing about the questioning, about their skills, because as I say, questioning is really important for us. Wait time out, this is really when we have seen the teachers, and here I have learned, or I was just reading somewhere before also, that when we talk about a wait time, it is not that you are losing your time in your classroom, right? You are giving time, it may be 1 minute, 2 minutes, for your students to ensure that they are able to interpret, or we can say they are able to analyze or comprehend the information, or to register the information that you are giving them. If you just keep on talking for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, it will not help your learners to understand, and furthermore to remember those information or register those information. So wait time is really important when we are talking about the classrooms, and when we are talking about how we can ensure the students are getting the actual outcomes at the end of the lessons during the plenary. Asking questions, again, moving forward, please ensure sometimes you have to allow your students to rehearse also for the effects, and that's the reason the wait time also plays an important role. Bloom's taxonomy plays an important role, and everything has to be planned before, because if you just go to the classroom and then fumble up that what questions I need to ask my students, it will not help. So you have to be very planned beforehand for the best questions that you want to ask, and this will help you for your learning walks and observations as well. Yes, differentiation, Bloom's taxonomy will, again, with using the Bloom's taxonomy, differentiation for the science students, for the regular learners, and for the GNT also will help us to a greater extent, and that's where we talk about. Now PMI is really important. Now PMI is considered as a really important strategy, where we say we need 1 points of 1 minute for the positives, 1 minute for the negatives, and 1 minute for that anything that student find it interesting, or student consider this as an interesting, right? So it can be any question which will help them to take an interest in your lessons, and that's the reason we have to balance all of them together, right? And that's where the PMI stands for. Concept mapping, again, an excellent tool when you have the topics, or we can say the concepts which are really complicated, or which you want the students to simplify it in their own words, or we can say, so don't ask them to give, okay, write a summary, don't give them such kind of things. Instead, you can ask them, write a roadmap, or write a concept map, or make a mind map or a spider diagram that will help them to synthesize the content, and moreover it will help them to comprehend that content, right? So concept mapping again will help as a strategy, as we can see over here, that if I put this into one paragraph, it will not look nice for me to read it, but yes, if it has been made by the students themselves, it will definitely help them, right? Concept mapping again over here, and yes, we are talking about minimum writing will be there, plus expression will be there. It will indicate the people's understanding very clearly on the topic. It will support in opportunities for the planning and revising also, and many of the time it supports in study guides also. So that's something where we can use the concepts map. And yes, these are some of the examples that we can use, or we can ask our learners to build their own concepts, right? And this is learning cycle, as I was talking about, that how the learning cycle can help us and how the learning cycle can be useful. Yes, evaluating the performance, that is really important, because when we say evaluation, it is, as I said, it is not from only from the learner's point of view, but it is also from the teacher's point of view. So evaluation has also to take place, and that's where the metacognition is really important. Yes, these are the few information, actually we can say, that we can find it over here when we are talking about the metacognition. And we can ensure that how the metacognition can be applied. So even you can refer to this kind of things and the resources actually, which will help you in questioning, or maybe in applying the metacognition strategies, right? Using the questionnaires to help the people think about their own metacognition. Uh, Many of the time what we can do is we can ask the learners also to prepare the questionnaires, or I have done it many of the times that I ask them, you prepare the quiz based on this particular topic that we are going to study, and this actually excites them. Or mainly you can ask them to create a situation where they can say that, or we can say it in the form of the debate, that okay, if you are going to study this topic, and you can raise a questionnaires based on this, and this will support using the questionnaires for the learners, that how each questions can be can come up with. So it's most of the time the upside down situation, that how the teachers, I mean how the teachers can put the questions in a particular way that will help the students, and it will take the opposite, that the answers are given and the students have to ask the questions or raise the questions, right? So that's one of the other strategies. And coming up to the conclusion, again, metacognition skills will help the people, I mean the students, mainly with a variety of learning needs. And see, I am not sure many of the schools, we use the cat4 data, we use lots of interventions relating to the inclusions and all for GND and for all other things. So that's where somewhere we analyze this. Furthermore, it will challenge their learning abilities, it will challenge their learning capabilities as well. And it will include that the students will be on board with this kind of things. So that's where some strategies can be again implemented, and it will be documentary evidence also, that how the work is taking place, how the learners are able to create their own learning opportunities, and it will fulfill, as I said a few minutes back, it will fulfill your learning work or observation requirements, or maybe your teaching learning objectives, right? So that's where the metacognition takes place, and metacognitive strategies will support in your regular classroom learning. So that's it from my end, and I really thank IIU for bringing this platform together to be here. And definitely, I'm sure that you also would have enjoyed the session, and especially the information that has been shared. And as I could see, some of the strategies are also being shared in the chat. So it is going to be a good learning process for all of us together, applying the metacognition together. So thank you once again, audience, for joining us today. And thank you, IIU. Thank you, Piyush sir.